Screen Junkies, it is now happening. We have real news coming out of Comic-Con. For what feels like the first time in 3 days, all of the news dumped in one big Marvel swarm. And I will say right at the top, we did a pre-tape before this panel was complete. Yesterday, today, before, now, tomorrow, Monday, in which we will be a little bit cynical about the Marvel panel because we said, oh, not much is happening. And then everything happened at once. And they basically announced Phase 4, which is notably a combination of films and television series that are going to Disney+. So that's the first thing that I want to talk about. We want to talk about each film and what you guys saw there. In no particular order, except that this is the first one coming. Black Widow comes to us May 1st, 2020. It stars Scarlett Johansson, Rachel Weisz as rumored, David Harbour as rumored, Florence Pugh as rumored, who is an amazing actress that you should check out in Midsommar, among other things. Directed by Kate Shortland. This takes place post-Civil War. You guys saw some footage. What are we looking forward to?
A post-Civil War adventure. Very spy versus spy, not in the Mad Magazine way, R.I.P. The Jason Bourne-esque clash between Black Widow and this organization that we've met in Avengers Age of Ultron, but kind of filling in the margins of her story. So none of the timeline, it doesn't appear to be timeline trickery that we're seeing with the Loki series.
Right.
More just like filling in a chapter in Black Widow's story that we did not see in previous films.
And Eric, Taskmaster?
Taskmaster, that was the big end of trailer reveal, has been rumored. I mean, there's paparazzi photos. As we've joked about, this movie's been filming for weeks, a month actually, you said 30 days, right? But they acted like it didn't exist until today. But yes, Taskmaster, the end of the trailer is, I think they're on a bridge, nighttime, Natasha and Taskmaster, he's holding up the shield from the comics. They have a big fight, looks really cool. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but it's like, they didn't explicitly say it's set post-Civil War, which had been rumored, but they pretty much implied it because they showed a montage of her stuff from the other movies, ending with Tony in Civil War saying, you know, they're after you now. And so it seemed to be like, oh, we're leading right into where was she in between Civil War and Infinity War.
Right.
Seems to be what they're doing.
Do we think that they're setting up any of these other characters to play in the MCU moving forward?
I mean, maybe you've got heavy hitters. You've got Rachel Weisz, an Oscar winner. You've got David Harbour, Florence Pugh, who has really had a great couple of years. And then I will say, if you just want somebody who's going to energize a crowd, these things are so well orchestrated, and you can tell even down to the questions that are going to be asked. And I mean, there's so much stage managing. They probably had 50 people on stage. Great. David Harbour, one of the only people that kind of called it out on stage. It was because the question was like, are you excited to grow your fan base? He's just like, who writes these questions? What a stupid question. Of course I am. Like, I mean, he came out like 100,000% full of energy. So obviously you want people like that to carry on the torch and to keep fans energized. You would hope so.
And lots of hand-to-hand is what it's like, very Civil War-esque.
Well, Civil War and then Winter Soldier especially, because it's going to be, you know, scaled down. I mean, especially coming out of Endgame and Spider-Man, even because there's like no superpowers. So it definitely reminded me of what we saw with the Russos in Winter Soldier, especially because that didn't really have superpowers per se, and then also in Civil War aesthetically, very hand-to-hand, very quick. You know, these are highly trained fighters. We see Natasha, she's fighting Florence Pugh, confirmed as Yelena Belova, the other Black Widow from the comics. You're asking, will these characters come back?
Yeah,
she's
clearly,
1,000% coming back.
Clearly, they're setting her up as the next Black Widow, with this Black Widow that we've known through these first 3 phases dead now.
Yeah, and they show, so they show in this footage we see, they fight, but then it's like a humorous thing where they have this big fight in a kitchen, brutal, but then they stop and they like have a drink together and they call each other sister. And so it's like they have this history together, this bond, and I'm sure it's a back and forth between the two of them.
And the briefest of glimpses of several spies in the Black Widow costume, the black suit with the the different electrical doodads and everything on it.
Bunch of different ones.
Yeah, a bunch of different ones. They aren't Marvel ever the marketing whizzes. Of course, gave everyone hats. So when we were walking out, as I talked to Eric, I'm like, well, there goes their 7,000 or however many fit in the Hall H strong strong marketing squad because, of course, they send everyone out wearing those hats.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're like, everybody put it on to take a picture, knowing that everyone's just going to walk out,
Yeah.
you know,
We're
wearing
gonna
them.
do it,
so
man.
And
they're
then
pushing
Kevin
it hard.
Smith's going to be in there doing his panel now.
Why does he take? I guess he takes
know.
that slot because it's kind of like our panels are late at night because that's the slot that they'll give us.
And
I guess he likes that late night
maybe
slot.
it feels like he can, you know, he curses so much.
Well,
like,
yeah,
all right,
that's
it's like
true.
the later panel. So.
But it's always after like the big room clearing Disney
know.
or Star Wars or Marvel panel. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting. I mean, Scarlett Johansson, obviously, it's been long awaited that she would have her own solo movie, but ostensibly speaking, it's a solo movie that is setting up the next Black Widow. We
Right.
believe, we don't know that for a fact, that is the speculation. Chris Evans had a lot to do with the hand-to-hand that we saw in Winter Soldier, so it'll be interesting to see what they do here and if that goes forward. Did anybody ask about trees? I'm imagining not. Let's move on to the Eternals.
No audience Q&A time.
Oh, I wonder
There was so
why.
much, and there was so much to go through.
It was exhausting keeping up. Like, I'm trying to tweet along, but it's like there's just no break. It's like in next thing.
You did a great job. You
thank
should go check out his, if you want all the news, it's on his feed. Eternals. So they brought out, this was rumored again that they would be talking about Eternals at this panel November 6, 2020. Angelina Jolie, Richard Madden, Kumail Nanjiani, Lauren Ridloff, Brian Tyree Henry, Salma Hayek, Leah McHugh, and Don Lee, all in this film, directed by Chloe. It's directed by Chloe Zhao?
Yes.
Oh my God!
Breaking news for Roth.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So anyway, I mean that's like pretty exciting, right? So
Yeah,
tell me
and-
about that. They brought them, trotted them all out.
Trotted them all out
next
on
to
stage.
film, just about to film. I
Yeah,
think.
they
Can
led
I
off
just
with
pause
it.
for 1 second? If you
Sure.
guys haven't seen The Writer, I know I've talked about this in other videos where I begged us to get into our Oscar campaign. It's so good. This movie is so good. Oh my God, I didn't know she was directing The Eternals.
Yeah.
I'm losing my shit. This is my fangirl moment. This movie is so good. Okay, I'm sorry. Talk about Angelina Jolie and Marvel things. Thank you.
Richard Madden, one of the names, I think that, you know, Kumail Nanjiani and Angelina Jolie particularly were the two that people kind of had thought had been rumored forever. It's essentially everybody knew.
Yeah.
But the two in that group that I heard the most were Richard Madden. People were very excited to know that he was, and then Salma Hayek got a huge response. Brian Tyree Henry also. No footage. They have not shot, I don't think.
I thought they would give us like a production art thing, but they didn't do that.
No, so really it was really just here they are, meet the Eternals.
If there's something, we were surprised by how much they revealed today, and if there's something that they can show at D23 they didn't show today, I'm betting it's Eternals footage, because they said they're just about to go back, like it sounds like they're about to film like any day now, so I think they'll have some footage very shortly to show, perhaps in Anaheim.
Well, that's exciting for me.
I'm glad we got that breaking news. This has been about Ross finding out things on camera this time.
I know. I mean, I'm sure everyone already knew that, and for some reason it just didn't connect with me because The Rider is available on Amazon. I highly recommend you watch it. It's a great film. Okay, Falcon and Winter Soldier, they've been running around today, making a splash at Comic-Con, but we didn't know that Zemo was going to show up.
Well, we had heard
or
that,
maybe we did. Ross learns things on camera.
Heard that him and Emily Van Camp will be back. Like that was like a second round of casting. Again, not officially announced yet, but that Zemo will be back. But still, they went pretty cool with it because they haven't started filming the show. But they had footage. They had Daniel Bruhl film a special thing just for this of him in character talking to the camera, basically saying, you know, I'm coming for you to Falcon and Winter Soldier. And then the big reveal was the purple mask that and Feige called him Baron Zemo. So it's like, okay, that he's going to fully become, because a lot of people wondered, like a lot of people, I love that character in Civil War, but he was a much stripped back version of the comic book version. Could they tilt him into the supervillain for the comics? And it sounds like they are, you know?
So this is Daniel Bruhl, Falcon and Winter Soldier. I guess Anthony Mackie earlier today said that he had tried on the suit.
He came out with the shield. He walked on the stage with the shield. Gave it to Sebastian Stan, who gave it to Jessica Chobot. So it passed hands, but no, I mean, with the logo as well.
The new logo has the
logo,
shield.
yeah. So obviously they are not shying away from the whole new Captain America angle, but yeah, shield looks pretty damn cool.
It does.
What's their ship name? I heard it was Winter Falcon. I love the two of them. I think that what's notable about this to me is, again, that they're clearly connecting these TV series in a very real way to the movies, which previously they just hadn't done.
Right. I mean,
so there's one that we'll talk about, but WandaVision, they said explicitly is going to directly feed into Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which they're going crazy
title,
with this stuff.
yes.
Well,
but that it's those are both going to feed directly into each other. So yeah,
those two,
WandaVision and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness are going to feed directly into each other. In that, what happens with Wanda in WandaVision will establish where she is in that,
and maybe
Doctor
even
Strange.
Things that she's encountering will drag. And so, we should say it's like, because these are the first shows being made by Marvel Studios, by Kevin Feige, unlike the previous ones that were made by Marvel TV, which is a separate entity. And so it's both extremely exciting and then corporately it's just savvy to basically say, wow, these TV shows are incredibly tied in. Yes, everything counts. You better subscribe to Disney Plus. And, it's, as a selling tool, it's ingenious. Right? Because people are so invested in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and you don't want to be left out. You wouldn't miss a movie, and now you don't want to miss these 8-episode series. So it's a very smart move.
We should also note, since we're on WandaVision, these are all coming in spring 2021. So Monica Rambeau will be in it. So Monica Rambeau is the little girl in Captain Marvel who then grows up to be Captain Marvel, and then this is supposed to take place right after Endgame. So that'll be interesting. And then did we hear any more about the Multiverse of Madness? By the way, these subtitles, I want to get into. They're fully.
All they said, they had Feige say, he just said what we had talked about, which is Mysterio wasn't lying about there being, he was lying, Spider-Man Far From Home. But if you're listening to this, you're talking about the future of the MCU. Mysterio might have been lying about some of his specifics, but he was not lying about the existence of a multiverse. And so, yes, this title is meaningful.
Well,
also directed by Scott Derrickson.
Scott Derrickson, who said that this will be, he said a horror movie. He said this will be the first MCU horror film that they are going to go. And of course, Kevin Feige is like, it'll be PG-13. But Scott Derrickson said they are not shying away from horror. And then the one word that they used, they must have used it 5 times with WandaVision, and they kept saying it was weird. They just said, this show's weird. It's going to be weird. If you think it looks weird, it's weirder than you think. They just kept saying weird, 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 weird. So.
All right. Well, I'm going to answer a really quick question that I've gotten a bunch on Twitter, which is WandaVision going to be the television show featuring Scarlet Witch and Vision that I pitched on Movie Fights, in which it started out as it was a movie. It was a rom-com that started out as a very sweet rom-com where he was in sweaters, and then all of a sudden we realized that MODOK had taken over their minds and had them in basically like a dreamscape, and he was controlling the world. Yes, it is, and I'm making a lot of money off of it. My career is about to take off. No, it's not that. I don't know what it is, but it's probably not that.
The brief footage that you saw was like, you saw a reflection of them in an old-looking television set, and then it was a very 50s
and so was the title treatment. And
I have no idea.
No. So they said, and although I don't remember if I've talked about it on camera, but maybe
it is my Movie Fights.
I don't know.
Because have you
Maybe,
seen? So there's a few things. Like, first of all, have you seen the Vision comic book that had that very 50s like suburban aesthetic, where it was him and his robot family, but it looked like very like Leave It to Beaver. So they talked about, they kept saying weird. They said it's post Endgame. They can't say how Vision's in it. Elizabeth Olsen also said you will fully see Wanda as the Scarlet Witch, which is I don't know if we talked about how they've never said the name Scarlet Witch in the movies. It's like the one name from the comics.
Maybe she's like processing her grief in the thing that Tony created.
Barf?
Yeah.
He didn't create it, but
but he was using.
He was using,
do you know what I mean? The thing that he created. Maybe she's processing her grief, but because she's Scarlet Witch and she's so powerful, she gets trapped in a mindscape.
Well, this was my theory after Endgame, because I said, once I saw Endgame, I said, okay, the title WandaVision, which we all thought, what a weird title. Is it a shipper title? To me, it suddenly made sense in that it could be like a weird metaphysical. Wanda's vision. It's a pun.
Vision.
So I think it's going to be some trippy, her powers
meld with technology. What was the thing that Tony, was it really called Barf? It wasn't called Barf.
That was, Spider-Man Far From Home. That was... All right, we're gonna say Far From Home spoilers. Mysterio was really pissed that he called it barf because it was his idea, and he flippantly called it barf.
But that's never like they set that up, and that's never played back in a big way. Okay, so that's tracking for me. She basically uses that to process her grief about Vision, and then because she is so empowered, she gets trapped in this mind because she can create visions and illusions for people. She gets trapped in her own illusion, as we all do. It's a big metaphor for what we do to ourselves as human beings. I love it.
And then Monica Rambeau is in it, who can maybe get powers in this, or maybe they'll just set her up for later on to get powers.
Some kind of Captain Marvel. Okay, cool. Let's talk about Shang-Chi because they did some casting announcement there. That's The Legend of Ten Rings. This is coming February 18th, 2021. We should also say that Doctor Strange is coming on May 7th, 2021. But going back, Shang-Chi.
Here's how savvy they are, guys. You see this full title, and again, okay, how do you sell Shang-Chi to people who don't know anything about the character and might think like, what, it's just martial arts? You make it a sequel to the Iron Man movies. You know, it's like, because they showed footage and they're like, remember the 10 rings from Iron Man 1? And remember the fake Mandarin? And remember how we found out that there was a real Mandarin in that short? And that this is the follow-up to that.
They showed a henchman from Ant-Man, also who had a neck tattoo.
A 10 rings
that was
tattoo.
a 10 rings neck tattoo. Basically saying this thing of like, we've planted this from the very beginning.
We've seeded this from the beginning.
Together.
And it's so smart to,
They said it, not
They
me.
said it. But also it's like, it makes it a sequel to Iron Man. The real Mandarin will be in it, which is a huge deal. And it also justifies that short, it's going to get a follow-up.
All I'm saying is, like, it's fine to do all of that, but I think that you should just own that you were not planning that when you made Iron. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
I don't think, no.
They
but
didn't didn't say we've been planning it. It's just they can imply it.
So Aquafina is in this, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that. So overall, how did that one feel?
I mean, again, it's like it's so early, but they just made the casting announcements. I hope I'm saying was it Simu Liu? He came out. He is a Chinese Canadian actor. I hadn't seen him in anything, but this dude was super charming, self-deprecating. He got cast because we had talked about would they actually have an actor introduced as Shang-Chi, because reports were in the trades they were like down to finalists. He was cast on Tuesday.
Oh,
so
wow.
he said, I was cast on Tuesday, guys, and I'm here now on stage.
He said he did a screen test a week ago today.
Wow.
Was cast on Tuesday and walked out on stage
How
today.
much CBD do you have to take at that point in your life? Like, that's very overwhelming. You know what I mean? Like, that's just a lot.
Like, you're a dude, you're an actor in Canada trying to make it, and then there's like, get to San Diego.
That's a lot in 1 week to process.
It's quite a lot in 1 week, yes.
But congratulations. Good for him. That's kind of amazing. I think this one sounds very exciting. This is coming February 18th, 2021. Loki. Okay, so after Endgame, we all presumed that break where Loki gets away, that would be the start of the Loki series. And this is the first moment that we see an alternate timeline or alternate dimension. Is that the case?
They 100% confirmed it's that Loki. Yeah.
They showed the clip. Kevin Feige was literally like, here's the Loki we're using, and they show the clip from Endgame, and he's like, that's the Loki. So it's like no mystery, no question. It's like, this is the one. And even Tom Hiddleston came out and was just like, yes, this is the Loki who 5 minutes before you saw that happen was smashed by the Hulk. So he's not happy. He's got pent up anger. And that's who he's.
And he's still a D-bag. He hasn't had his arc.
Which is interesting, and that's a controversial thing. There's already fans online who say, they're robbing us of all the growth he showed through Ragnarok is gone. Who knows? All I'll say is Hiddleston, I mean, they're all selling these shows, but Hiddleston said, when I heard what they were going to do with the character in this, I was extremely impressed. Hint, hint, that there's some cool stuff that will happen with D-Bag Loki in this scenario.
All right, well, we'll find out in spring of 2021. I think that's interesting because this opens the door to so many. Here's the thing, as they're doing these series and weaving them into the movies and having multiple, it both opens the door and closes the door to the continuity making sense. At a certain point, like in comics, it will break.
I was just having a conversation with someone about Spider-Man Homecoming because it's like the biggest clear-cut continuity issue that 8 years later, which just doesn't work. There are two sects of fans on this because I'm the one who goes, that's a big continuity snafu. And they're the people who say, they broke it, they ruined it. I'm like, guys, you got to get over it. Continuity mistakes will happen. And yes, the bigger the MCU goes, the more projects there are, they're going to have some other screw-ups. And, hopefully you can just roll with the punches on that because yeah, it's going to happen.
Okay, so coming November 5th, 2021, we knew that Taika Waititi was returning to, but this was probably the biggest news in certain respects. Thor: Love and Thunder, which I said.
You have to say Thor: Love and Thunder.
I don't, but I will because I love you.
Look at that logo.
Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
It's so
Feel it.
metal.
Playing Ronnie James Dio,
Yeah,
Rainbow in the Dark.
Yeah, it is so metal. It's so Flash Gordon, which I love. It's so 80s.
So
but
great.
here's the thing: if they were riffing on Love and Basketball, I'd be even more into it. I'm good with it either way. But this came as a legitimate surprise in this room, which was Natalie Portman returning at all, much less as Lady Thor.
Yeah, and Taika Waititi said, I was reading this storyline when I was making Thor Ragnarok. This is coming straight from the Mighty Thor comic books storyline. It's I was surprised too, if I'm being honest. Natalie Portman seemed done. And this is what they were saying like 10 years, not 10, but however many years ago, they were setting it up, and it seemed like that had come and gone.
That's the thing. I guess that's the exciting thing about the MCU is sometimes we're like, oh, they're done with that. They're never, I mean, even going back to when Thunderbolt Ross popped up in Civil War, at a time we thought we're never going to see an actor from Incredible Hulk again. And then there he is, And the thing with the Mandarin, oh, they did that one shot. They implied there's a real Mandarin. They might never return to that again. And now they will. And now Natalie Portman not only returning, and yeah, she did Endgame where it was like she did an audio thing for a second, and they used found footage from the old movie. But for her to be back, for them to do the female Thor, which everyone said that will never happen. We'll never see female Thor. We certainly won't see Natalie Portman playing her. And yep, no, we're doing it.
Well, one of the things that people have been wondering about was Thor took off with the Guardians, so was he going to split off from them for the fourth movie? I would be fascinated if Hemsworth is minimally in Thor 4 and that it's Natalie Portman's movie and that he's in Guardians 3 primarily.
Well, because
I'm not saying that's going to happen, and I love him, so don't kill me.
We have Tessa Thompson also was there, and we've got New Asgard also in the equation. So it will be interesting to see how they split their time and how they, because we are also in a reality. If you're watching this, you know this, without a Mjolnir.
Yeah.
So how it all works, and because Taika, they handed her the hammer. Natalie Portman had the hammer on stage, and not the hammer, but a nice looking replica of it. So yeah, I'm very curious. How does this all tie together and working together?
And Tessa Thompson was there, and she said she's being a king, looking for her queen.
Yep.
So it's really going to be interesting because, and I love Chris Hemsworth, but Taika also pointedly with the last Thor movie wanted to make sure that he was the most interesting character in the film.
Yeah.
So now it's a lot for him to, maybe he feels like he established that and now he has room to play with it or something. All of the Thors, the many Thors.
Who knows?
I was surprised to find out we're going to get this Thor movie before Guardians 3, because yes, the last time we saw him, he was with the Guardians. Even before this, when I thought Thor 4 or Thor Love and Thunder was coming after Guardians 3, I thought for sure, in fact, my specific guess was not only that one of the Guardians would be in the movie, but specifically Rocket, because there's been such a rapport between the two.
Yeah.
I still think that'll happen. I still think a Guardian will appear at least a little bit in this movie, to have that connective thread, especially because the post-credit scene will probably lead into Guardians 3, They'll tie it all.
So we had heard rumors that there would also be a Hawkeye series coming on Disney Plus. So this is coming. Jeremy Renner was there, also introducing Kate Bishop. Here's a question that we had in the room, and I don't think it is going to be this, but what if they just focused on, what if this is the This Is Us of the Marvel, like it's just a family drama?
I don't think it'll just be that. Renner said, he was excited that he likes the idea of Hawkeye training someone to be a superhero in a world with superpowers where the Hawkeyes do not have them. He also said he's training Kate Bishop, the best Hawkeye. So I think these shows, we'll see. Maybe it will be a family drama with bows and arrows. Again, we're talking about the Disney Plus thing and these shows. Just think about what they're spending on these casts. These people who, at this point, Renner, all these people must be getting great salaries from the movies. I say great, millions and millions of dollars. And now they're signing them to these shows, too. That's crazy. But again, they want Disney Plus to be a big deal, and this does it.
I got the sense that maybe even more than the Black Widow movie, because what Jeremy Renner kept saying, he said it 2 or 3 times, was he's training. Kate Bishop is the better version of Hawkeye.
Yeah.
She's the better Hawkeye, and so more than what maybe even the Black Widow movie potentially being about transitioning and introducing the new Black Widow.
Yeah.
I got the sense, and they if they cast Kate Bishop, I'm sure they would have brought whomever it is out on stage, but I got the sense that this is going to be less about Clint Barton and more about Kate Bishop and the transitioning and the training to set Hawkeye as a character forward into the MCU.
Like Ray and Luke.
Like Ray. Oh,
Yes.
boy. So they kind of corrected for this in Endgame, but Hawkeye never really got so much of a chance to shine and show his skills and what he could do. So maybe they're also giving him the opportunity in the training.
Kevin Feige also said that specifically said that they are going to, in the show, go back and fill in more of the gaps of Hawkeye when he was avenging
Ronin.
when he was Ronin, basically.
great.
I'm so glad you remembered to say that
Yes.
because that was something I couldn't keep up with tweeting because they were already moving on to the next thing. And I was like, I can't talk about the Ronin thing. Someone else is coming on stage. Amazing. But yeah, I'm glad you remembered that.
That was one of the things that we wanted to see explored a little bit more in that movie, is like what was happening when he was in the stage of his life. I think that's fascinating.
And everyone wants to see also just in general that 5-year gap is like begging to be filled in and really see what the hell this world would be like.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe the Hawkeye series will just be one of many ways they will do that.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I think we were all making a big joke about this as such. Nobody really wants that out of the series. In fact, this is much better, the Ronin period. But I have a question about how dark things can get that I'll bring up in a minute. But what if, I have a question about what if the animated series coming again in summer 2021, all of the original actors reprising their roles, voicing this animated series, that is just a bunch of what if X. It's like basically fan theories, like one-off fan theories that creators are getting to do.
So did you? I want to look at my own Twitter because I took a picture of they showed a picture of all the actors that are going to be reprising the roles, and it was like I remember seeing Paul Rudd.
Josh Brolin was definitely on
We
there.
knew Haley Atwell because that was the one they announced.
Stanley Tucci.
Okay.
I saw Chadwick Boseman on there.
All right.
Yeah, there were some people.
Probably
I was looking for Evans, and I didn't see Evans.
Evans or Downey.
Or Downey, yeah. So I think there may be some that they may. I mean, no one's budget is unlimited.
Yeah, no.
But there was a lot of things, particularly when you see player. I saw Taika Waititi on there.
That's right.
But when you see someone like Stanley Tucci, who's Dr. Erskine from the first Avenger, I think it really shows that you, on a lot of these, are going all the way back to the origin story.
Yep.
And what if,
and we know that one is what if Peggy ended up with the super soldier serum.
Something. I'm a huge fan of the What If comics. Like I
too.
love
So good.
those comics so much, and I like that they're doing it. I'd hoped that maybe, but before we knew that the Marvel shows on Disney Plus were going to be so MCU centric, I'd hoped that they might be about the broader Marvel universe. But now they own pretty much all of it anyway, so I'm sure eventually. But yeah, to get all of those actors back, and it was a grid of like 30 people, just like all of these names and faces coming back to do the voices. So
And someone else's panel, that would have been like the entire panel.
Yeah.
Just talking, here it was like you better take that picture in 5 seconds because we have to move on. To something.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey Wright is the Watcher.
Jeffrey Wright is
voicing the
starring
Watcher.
as the Watcher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he found on stage.
Yeah. Who is, if you don't know the Watcher, is basically in the comic books was the narrator of the comic. He was the guy that's like, in your universe, you know that Peter Parker was bitten by a spider, but what if it was Flash Thompson? And so his whole role is he sees the multiverse, and he's like the Rod Serling of the show, just presenting this alternate scenario.
Now the funny thing about the What If comics is that 90% of them ended super sad and tragic.
They were very tragic.
Yeah.
Everyone always died.
Everyone
Someone
always died.
Yeah.
So now I'm wondering, will the animated series be like that, or will they have more optimistic endings?
Yeah, I mean, because otherwise we're always in the brightest timeline.
Sure.
But it's certainly affording them a lot of creative opportunity as this does, like the continuity gets more and more cumbersome.
Yeah.
Feige threw out a bunch of stuff at the end of the panel, like, anyway,
panel's
see
worth of stuff.
you at D23. It was like Fantastic Four was name dropped, which would have been the entire story in another day, and then dropped Mahershala Ali as Blade in a standalone film.
Yeah.
What?
That was a Comic-Con
That's
moment.
insane.
That was, because you and I were talking before about what can they legit surprise us with anymore? Because, will they announce Fantastic Four? Will they say something about Deadpool? These were all things we could conceive of. We didn't think about Blade, right? It's like that was a great left field.
And the execution of it is great because Kevin Feige's like, Black Panther 2, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Captain Marvel 2, Fantastic Four, Mutants. You know all about that stuff. It's been rumored. He's like, but here's something that has been rumored. And he just says, Mahershala Ali, everyone. And Mahershala Ali just walks out on stage. Everyone's like, okay. And I mentioned
playing some villain.
Right, and I mentioned that they had given out these hats, and he basically says, Mahershala, you look like you have your own hat. And Mahershala Ali just puts the hat on, and the hat just says Blade. And the lights go down, the Blade logo comes up, and that's it. Gone. They've disappeared.
That was the end.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was the end of this. So I mean, that is a mic drop moment, and then they came to play. I'm surprised. As late in the game as we knew they were coming.
Yeah.
When he put the what I call the Feige board up behind him, which is like, let's look at Phase 4, and then just like 10 untitled logos and dates come up. You're like, we're doing the whole thing.
Right, we're doing it.
I'm surprised.
He's like, I'm not here to waste your time.
He was not here to waste our time. No.
And what's crazy is that everyone, normally you would think, have they wasted it all? They've blown it all. They're not going to have anything for D23. They have plenty. He sort of yelled out about Fantastic Four. They're going to be able to talk about the Fox.
His joke was like, we didn't get to, and that so the way he basically confirmed a Fantastic Four movie is coming, of course we know, is we didn't get to Fantastic Four. We will.
Fantastic Four, Guardians 3, there's Black Panther 2, Captain Marvel 2, but also where's Spider-Man in all of this? How does that fit in?
Not name dropped.
Not name dropped.
No mention. I mean, in clips you saw Spider-Man, but no mention of Spider-Man or any.
And who knows? Again, the Sony thing, we know, because we talked about how Sony pushed for Far From Home to come out a year earlier than they wanted, so maybe they're still figuring that out. Plus, of course, when they did the Phase 3 announcement, things changed after that. The original Phase 3 announcement included the Inhumans movie that never ended up happening. It did not include Spider-Man Homecoming, Far From Home, Ant-Man and the Wasp, or Captain Marvel. Or no, it did include Captain Marvel. But it didn't include Ant-Man and the Wasp or the 2 Spider-Man movies. So there's still plenty of room.
Plenty left to talk about. One final thought on the Blade front is that I do wonder, especially since you talked about Scott Derrickson, they had sort of originally talked about the first Doctor Strange maybe being a horror movie, and you say, no, it's PG-13. I mean, how are you doing Blade properly in this PG-13 MCU universe?
That was the thing, is because they've had Blade back for quite a while. And so I kept wondering, when would they use him? Because, again, the character has so much more name value because of those Wesley Snipes movies. People know who Blade is. So, I thought he would end up, once upon a time, a Netflix series, now a Hulu series, because they could get, edgier, more R-rated type terrain, is why I thought that might happen. But now, no, this is a full-fledged movie. I do think, first of all, they still could introduce the character in that Doctor Strange sequel. It still feels like maybe that's the room. If they're saying that's a horror movie, you could put him in there. It will be interesting because those Blade movies were R. I don't, it sounds like they're going to stand pretty firm on, MCU will be PG-13. I think they've talked about that. It's like even Deadpool being allowed to be R, it will not probably have that Marvel Studios at the top of it. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. People have to accept that it'll be Blade who can't say what some MFers try to do when they ice skate uphill,
Yeah, it'll be. I'm curious too. The question is, if they stick with the PG-13, which Disney famously, rarely, if ever, releases an R-rated film. Yeah. If they stick with the PG-13 and just push it as far as they go, will Blade fans be satisfied with that, or do you expand the base? I mean, that's the other thing, is like there's a very hardcore fan base of people that love Blade, love the Wesley Snipes movies. Do you know going in that you may potentially sacrifice some of those fans who feel that the character's gotten soft, because you know that you're going to be growing the fan base exponentially by making it a more accessible franchise? But then this is also the franchise that literally killed half of the universe in a pretty horrific way, but in a way that allowed them to maintain their PG-13 rating. So there's ways to get around it, but it's not doesn't seem like it'll have that like real
Bite?
bite. Yes, that the Wesley. Yes, that was
Still
the
have
Snipes
some
brought.
edge though. Yeah, I think they'll like we can't. They
Thank
always
you,
figure.
David.
They always figure it out. So they'll make a cool Blade movie even if it's not an R-rated Blade movie. It is funny, by the way, to think that wow, they're gonna put vampires in the MCU is amazing. It's also interesting that we're about to get the Morbius, the living vampire movie from Sony based on the Marvel comic, but not set in the MCU. So we're going to have dueling Marvel vampires coming up in the next couple of years.
Well,
really that
I
much
mean,
of a
it's not the
Yeah, I'm not saying it's competition.
I
it's just
I don't
weird
want to
thing.
cast votes, but Mahershala Ali gets my vote.
Oh, you gets my vote too.
Yeah.
So, okay, big day, big day, finally. After a rather sleepy Comic-Con, a lot dumped from Marvel. They came to play. People waited for them, and they did not disappoint, which
They
is
brought
great.
love and thunder,
They
guys.
brought love and thunder and a little bit of basketball. And we're going to be talking about this probably for weeks and months and years to come in reality. I will warn you that the pre-tape that is happening on Monday will be quite loopy and sleepy and not address any of this because it was done before when we were there. We were in that mood then. We're in this mood now, which you can watch this again after that. The point is this, we're coming back live on Tuesday with lots of new news. We'll see what happens in the world, continuing with the Marvel conversations. Final thoughts?
I want to talk about Star Trek on Tuesday.
On
not
Tuesday,
today. Not
yeah.
right now. No,
I
I'm
was
not
like-
hijacking the show
we'll,
now
we'll
to talk
have,
about
we'll have
Star
a few
Trek.
more Comic-Con remnants on Tuesday.
This crew has to wrap out.
Yeah.
This was
But we
not a
will.
sleepy morning for me as a
Yeah.
Star Trek fan.
No,
So
no, no,
yes,
well,
we'll talk about it next week.
We talked about the Westworld trailer for Monday. We talked about Watchmen. We talked about the weirdest things that you didn't know happened at Comic-Con. There's a great video that Billy provided for us right at the end of that video, so check it out.
Did the horse make it into the show?
The horse didn't make it into that particular show, sadly. But the horse will play back throughout the year, I think.
Okay.
And we saved Star Trek for you, Dan. We couldn't do
Yes.
Star Trek without
Next
Dan.
week we'll talk about
That would
Star
be
Trek.
crazy.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
No, we would
Talk
never
about
do
it.
that.
In LA, we'll talk about
In
it.
LA, we will talk about Star Trek. In San Diego, we will say goodbye. And thank you guys so much for joining us this Comic-Con weekend. We want to thank our crew, Ryan, JT, two new sound
Great work,
guys
everyone.
who are great. Joey, who's from Fandom, he's amazing. David and other Ryan. So this is Ryan Deakins, our cameraman, and we will never be in focus again because he will no longer be with us. Goodbye. Thank you for joining us from Marvel.
Love and thunder.
Yep.